What's up, guys? I want to shoot a quick video here, just giving you a little more of a breakdown of the tutorial on the push-up. The thing that I see the most that people do in the push-up is they have a lack of stiffness through the trunk, which causes a lot of key hinge points, specifically in the lumbar spine or the thoracolumbar hinge junction between the rib cage and the low back. And overall, when we don't have good transition of force through the core, if we don't have the appropriate amount of stiffness in the trunk, we can start to see a breakdown in mechanics upstream, up the spine. So we get up the spine to the shoulder, and we start to notice if we don't have the rib cage in a good position relative to the pelvis, then we have a hard time orienting our shoulder relative to the rib cage. And so then we start to load that position and go down into our push-up, and we've already compromised our ideal position, and now we're compensating and putting force in areas that it may not be good for those areas, but we're also reinforcing, encouraging ourselves to do the push-up in a non-optimal way. So I always say this, thank you Peter Twist, regress to progress. Find out the position that you're best able to complete the exercise in, and then progress from there with perfect form, because practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. So what you repeatedly do, you will become. If you repeatedly do shitty push-ups, you're going to be a shitty push-upper. If you do good push-ups, you'll have a good push-up and be able to replicate that good push-up on command, because you'll have that file saved and stored in the brain. So a lot of people just go, oh, push-up, I can do a push-up, no problem. And it looks like a dead doll doing some kind of seizure thing, right? So we want stiffness through the trunk. That's going to mean that we need to engage the glutes and engage the core up here in the front. Some of the abdominal muscles, rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, that cinch down and pull the rib cage into place with the rest of the spine and the pelvis, okay? So this stuff should be stiff and locked in. I'm going to test him when I get him in position to make sure. But what we do here to see if you can get into a good position, if you can maintain stiffness through the core and the torso in this relative push-up position. Because really all a push-up is, again going back to this, is a progressed high plank, right? It's just a plank with your arms moving. But the plank cues of stiffening through the torso should maintain the exact same. So our progression ladder goes knees, elevated hands, and then we go from the feet on an elevated surface, then we go from the knees on the floor, then we go to the feet from the floor. So we start out with level 1, knees onto an elevated surface. So we just check in. Can we find alignment through the system and brace effectively? So Ryan's going to bring his hands down in the box here. You'll notice I've got a dowel lined up with his knee, because the knee is going to be that bottom point of the angle that I want to refer to through the rest of the body. The checkpoints are going to be knee, hip, and shoulder. I want those to be in a straight line and to pivot on that knee without any other movement from joints upstream. Okay, the only joint really that's moving, doing the predominant amount of movement, is the elbow. There's some movement in the wrist and the scapula as well, but really the elbow itself is doing most of the movement here. Everything else is just planking, staying stiff. So he's going to have the dowel lined up with his knee, and now his goal before he even gets into the push-up is to get himself into a plank position by tucking the glutes underneath him, that posterior pelvic tilt, flat butt, okay, and then squeezing the rib cage down. He's trying to touch his belt buckle to his rib cage. He's trying to crunch the accordion in the front. He gets real stiff here, creating almost a bit of a banana curve through his body, that canoe shape. That's our hollow body shape. Now he's getting much more oriented to the stick in relation to 3 points of contact. He's still behind in his hips. He still needs to push his hips forward more. Now we've got damn near a perfectly straight line relative. So if he's a straight line here and he just bends the elbows and hinges down, in theory, when he gets to the bottom position of the box, chest touching, he should have his knees, hips, and shoulders lined up perfectly with this dowel. Go ahead. Push the hips forward. Yep, lead with the hips. Good. Pause in that bottom position. Good. Pause here. Drop the glutes, pull the ribs up. Yep, drop the glutes even more, drop the glutes even more, drop the glutes even more, drop the glutes even more. Whoa, that's where I want him, and that's where it's the hardest for him, which is why he's shaking, because that's a tough position. Now I'm going to tell him to drive out of here, but make sure the hips and the shoulders move at the same time. You got to push from your belly button, push from your glutes, push from the pelvis, push from that center of mass right here. Okay, let's get another one of those. Lead with the hips first. Push the hips forward as far as you can. Good. Good. Yep. Yep. Good. More glutes. Push forward. Yep. Good. You see how we're getting that nice angle. Go ahead and push back. Ribs down, belly in, glutes tight. Good. Okay, now we're just going to do the same variation but from the feet so you can see that the position of this dowel should maintain the same line relative to the rest of the body. So go ahead and set up. This time I'm going to take the dowel relative to his foot. Okay, so again, when he's in that bottom position, he should be really close. Doesn't have to be perfect, but this is just a cue. This is just a way for you, go ahead, to check alignment. Glutes got to drop a little bit. Ribs got to come up a little bit. Yep, yep, go ahead. Okay, same thing, come down. Just keep pushing those glutes down. Good. That was probably his best one right there. Very stiff relative to the core. Go ahead and come down back into that same push-up position. If you have a rigged setup at your house where you probably can't see this in the pan of the angle, but you can hang a band up to some sort of anchor point up high and loop the band around your waist to give yourself some assistance. Think of an assisted pull-up with the band, where you see people put the band around their feet to give them a little help in that bottom position where they're struggling the most. Same thing here. When we hit that biomechanical disadvantage, that weak point at the bottom, if we've got a band that's at full stretch in the bottom, giving us that yank to come back up, we can get a little help and practice making our form better while still getting nice, good challenge from this. So I'm just going to loop this around his belly, put that around your waist. Yep, and I'll go ahead and get in the same position. Now again, if you got a super friend, you can have him do this, or you can get a towel too. It doesn't have to be a band, but a band to an anchor point by yourself works really well. So I want you, and this is part of reactive neuromuscular training too, RNT, if you've watched some of the other videos, we're feeding the mistake. The mistake is his butt coming out back behind him this way. And so I'm trying to force him to break out of his good position. So what does that do? It forces him to exaggerate the opposite. I feed the mistake, he exaggerates the opposite to make sure that mistake doesn't happen. So he's going to try to push his hips down into the band and break the band by squeezing his glutes and pushing his pelvis down and forward. But he'll notice that already gets you a stiffer core, right? It forces you, this space right here, really forces you to lock that in. So go ahead, push down into the band, break the band, and then I'm going to give you a little help at the bottom of the push-up. And all I'm doing, I'm not doing anything, I'm just holding here, but the band gets under more stretch, which requires him to push down harder with his hips to get in better position, but the more stretch on the band, the more assistance it's going to give him on the rebound coming back up. Glutes down, glutes down, glutes down, glutes down. There you go, yep. Woo, that's a whole lot harder. Okay? So don't think that just because you're a man and you've done push-up contests that your push-up is awesome. You likely still have some mechanical faults, especially in this region, lumbopelvic hip complex, aka bottom of the rib cage to the bottom of the butt cheek. This space, if not well practiced, is often not tuned in with everything else, and so you don't get a good strong stiffness through the whole system. So make sure that you practice in a regress position that allows you to master the mechanics first, and then you can progress from there. So use a dowel, use a line, a mirror works really well too. The dowel is a very strong visual reference of like, oh, I'm up here, I'm down here, okay, I need to make these adjustments in relation to the dowel. But a mirror and a trained eye can look and see like, oh, my butt's way up in the air, I need to push my hips down. Oh, I'm really peeling my chest back and my shoulders back, I need to cinch down the front of my core a little bit more. So just know that you can use tools to give you a better position. You can use bands, you can use dowels, you can use boxes, you can use mirrors, you can use your own eyeballs, right? So you're constantly trying to manipulate your position, optimize your position so you can improve the mechanics of the exercise, improve your performance, improve your energy expenditure, your economic efficiency, and overall keep you safer and healthier as you train really hard.